Rain streaked the glass like tears, blurring the city lights into 1,000 fractured jewels. From the penthouse's floor-to-ceiling windows, Luca watched the world below, his silhouette sharp against the glow. The city was alive with secrets, but up here, everything was silent, too silent. The only sound was the steady tick of an antique clock, echoing in the vast empty space. He sat in a leather chair, posture perfect, suit immaculate, every detail of his world meticulously arranged. Yet nothing could mask the hollowness that gnawed at him. The room was filled with the trappings of power, rare art, expensive whiskey, a gun resting on the table, but none of it brought comfort. Not tonight. Luca's gaze drifted to a faded photograph tucked discreetly behind a crystal decanter. A woman's smile, soft and secretive, stared back at him. Elena. The name was a wound that never healed. He remembered the way she laughed, the way her hair caught the sunlight, the way she vanished from his life 15 years ago, taking with her the only piece of innocence he'd ever known. He'd built an empire since then, brick by bloody brick, but every victory tasted of ash. The men who feared him, the rivals who envied him, the city that whispered his name in both reverence and terror. None of it mattered when the night grew long and the memories crept in. He wondered, not for the first time, if she ever thought of him. If she ever regretted leaving. If she ever told their child about the man who haunted her past. A storm rumbled overhead, thunder rolling through the glass and steel. Luca poured himself a drink, the amber liquid catching the light, and tried to drown the ache. But the silence pressed in, thick and suffocating, until it was almost a physical weight. He closed his eyes, letting the rain and thunder fill the void. In the darkness behind his eyelids, he saw Elena's face, heard her voice whispering promises she could never keep. He wondered what their daughter looked like. Did she have Elena's eyes, his stubborn jaw? Did she know anything about the world he ruled from the shadows? The clock ticked on, relentless. Luca's phone lay face down on the table, ignored for hours. He had no one left to call, no one who dared disturb him. The world outside could burn, and he would remain untouched, untouchable. But then, slicing through the hush, the phone rang. The sound was sharp, urgent, almost desperate. Luca's heart stuttered, a muscle long unused. He stared at the screen, the number unfamiliar, the possibilities endless. For a moment he hesitated, the past and present colliding in a single, shattering instant. He reached for the phone, the rain still falling, the city still waiting, and everything he thought he knew about his life was about to change. Luca's hand hovered over the phone, the screen's glow harsh in the dim room. He almost let it ring out, almost. But something in the urgency of the moment, the way the storm outside seemed to hold its breath, compelled him. He pressed accept, bracing himself for a voice from the past or a threat from the present. Luca? The name was a whisper, raw and trembling, and for a heartbeat, he thought he was dreaming. He hadn't heard that voice in 15 years, but it was unmistakable. Elena. The sound of her name in his ear was a knife and a balm, all at once. He sat up straighter, every muscle tensed. Elena? His voice was low, controlled, but beneath it, 1,000 questions threatened to break free. Is it really you? A shaky breath on the other end. I don't have time. Please, listen to me. Your daughter needs you tonight. The words landed like a blow. Luca's mind reeled, searching for meaning. My daughter? The syllables felt foreign, impossible. Elena, what are you talking about? She choked back a sob. I'm sorry, Luca. I should have told you. I wanted to so many times, but it was never safe. Not for her. Not for any of us. He gripped the phone tighter, knuckles white. Where are you? What's happened? I can't explain, not now. There's no time. Her voice was frantic, every word laced with fear. She's in danger. I need you to come to St. Agnes Hospital. Please, Luca. If you ever cared about me, about us, come now. Don't tell anyone. Don't bring anyone. Just come. Luca's world spun, the room suddenly too small, the air too thin. He tried to process the avalanche of revelations, but all he could focus on was the tremor in Elena's voice, the terror she couldn't hide. Elena, wait. Is our daughter hurt? What kind of danger? A pause, then a whisper so soft he almost missed it. She's very sick, and there are people looking for her. Dangerous people. I can't protect her alone. The storm outside intensified, lightning flashing across the skyline. Luca's mind raced through possibilities. Rival families, old enemies, debts come due. But nothing made sense. He'd spent his life preparing for every threat, every betrayal, but nothing had prepared him for this. Elena, I need to know, he started. But she cut him off, voice breaking. Please, Luca, I'm begging you, just come. I'll explain everything when you get here. I promise. The line went dead. Luca stared at the phone, the silence now deafening. For a moment he was paralyzed, caught between the man he'd become and the boy he'd once been. The one who believed in love, in second chances, in miracles. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the polished floor. The photograph of Elena seemed to watch him, her eyes full of secrets. He grabbed his coat, his keys, the gun, old habits, old armor. But this was different. This wasn't about power or territory or vengeance. This was about a daughter he'd never known, a life he'd never imagined. As he strode to the elevator, the city's pulse matched his own. Fast, frantic, alive with possibility and dread. The rain battered the windows, but Luca barely noticed. Every step was a promise, every heartbeat a vow. He would find Elena, he would find his daughter, and he would do whatever it took to keep them safe. The elevator doors slid shut, sealing him off from the world he'd ruled for so long. For the first time in years, Luca felt something other than emptiness. He felt fear. He felt hope. He felt alive. And as the elevator descended, carrying him from isolation into the unknown, he knew nothing would ever be the same again. Luca's car sliced through the rain-slicked streets, headlights carving tunnels of light through the darkness. The city blurred past, a mosaic of neon and shadow, but his mind was fixed on a single destination. St. Agnes Hospital. The name echoed in his head, a beacon and a warning. He gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles aching, as memory surged, unbidden, unstoppable. 15 years ago, he'd been a different man. Not yet a king, not yet a monster, just a boy with ambition, and a heart he hadn't learned to guard. He remembered the first time he saw Elena, sunlight tangled in her hair, laughter spilling from her lips as if the world had never known sorrow. She was the daughter of a rival, a forbidden fruit in a garden of thorns. He should have walked away. He never could. Their love was a secret, a rebellion against the blood-soaked rules of their families. They met in hidden corners, exchanged whispered promises in the hush before dawn. Every stolen moment was a risk, every touch a defiance. But love, Luca learned, was never enough to keep the darkness at bay. The war came suddenly, a spark igniting old grudges. One night, gunfire shattered the peace they'd built. Luca remembered the chaos, the shouts, the sirens, the blood. He remembered Elena's hand slipping from his, her eyes wide with terror and something else. Regret. She vanished into the night, leaving him with nothing but memories, and a heart that hardened with every passing year. Now, as he pulled up to the hospital's crumbling facade, the past pressed in on him. The building was a relic, its paint peeling, its windows fogged with age. He strode through the doors, the scent of antiseptic and despair thick in the air. The receptionist barely glanced up, cowed by the force of his presence. He moved like a storm, unstoppable, searching for the woman who had once been his world. He found her in a dimly lit corridor, hunched on a plastic chair, her face buried in her hands. For a moment he hesitated, the years falling away. She looked up, and their eyes met, 15 years collapsing into a single, shattering instant. Elena was older now, lines etched at the corners of her eyes, shadows beneath them. But her gaze was as fierce as ever, burning with secrets and sorrow. She stood uncertain, her hands trembling. Luca felt the armor he'd built around his heart crack just a little. "Elena," he said, his voice rougher than he intended. She swallowed, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, she stepped forward, her eyes searching his face for the boy she once knew. For a moment the world shrank to just the two of them, the storm outside forgotten. He wanted to reach for her, to erase the years and the pain, but he held himself back. He was the Mafia boss now, a man feared and obeyed. Vulnerability was a luxury he couldn't afford. Yet standing before her, he felt exposed, every scar and regret laid bare. "Elena," he repeated, softer this time. "Where is she? Where's our daughter?" A flicker of pain crossed her face. "She's in room 214. She's very sick, Luca. I didn't know who else to call." He nodded, swallowing the questions that threatened to spill out. "Why didn't you tell me?" The words were a whisper, raw and aching. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I wanted to, I tried. But after the war, after everything, I was scared. I thought keeping her away from you would keep her safe." He flinched, the accusation unspoken but heavy between them. "Safe from me or from my world?" "Both," she admitted, voice barely audible. "But I was wrong. I see that now." A silence stretched, thick with all the things they'd never said. Luca looked away, jaw clenched. He was used to control, to certainty. But here, with Elena, he was just a man, lost, longing, afraid. He forced himself to focus. "What's wrong with her?" Elena shook her head, helpless. "The doctors don't know. She's burning up, but it's not an infection. It's something else. Something I can't explain." Luca's mind raced, cataloging threats, searching for answers. But all he could see was the fear in Elena's eyes, the desperation in her voice. He realized with a jolt that he would do anything to save their daughter. Anything. He reached out, his hand hovering over hers. "We'll figure it out. Together." For the first time in years, hope flickered between them, a fragile, dangerous thing. Luca straightened, the boss and the man merging, ready to face whatever waited behind the hospital door. He took a breath, steeling himself, and followed Elena down the corridor, toward the room where his past and future waited to collide. The hallway seemed to stretch forever, each step echoing with the weight of years lost. Luca followed Elena, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't since he was a young man running from gunfire, not toward it. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting Elena's shadow long and thin against the peeling linoleum. She paused outside room 214, her hand trembling as she gripped the handle. Inside, the world shrank to a single hospital bed. Machines beeped softly, their lights blinking in a steady rhythm that belied the chaos in Luca's chest. The girl lying there was pale, her dark hair fanned across the pillow, her skin slick with sweat. She looked impossibly young, fragile in a way that made Luca's breath catch. He saw Elena in the curve of her cheek, the stubborn set of her jaw. But there was something of himself, too. A shadow in the brow, a defiance even in sleep. He stepped closer, unable to look away. "Sophia?" The name felt strange, sacred. He reached for her hand, surprised by how small it was in his own. Her skin was hot, burning with a fever that seemed to radiate from her very bones. Elena hovered at the foot of the bed, wringing her hands. "She's been like this for 2 days. The doctors have run every test, but nothing makes sense. Her temperature keeps climbing, but there's no infection, no virus. They're baffled." Luca's mind raced, searching for answers, for someone to blame. "What about specialists? Money isn't an issue. I'll fly in anyone you need." Elena shook her head, her eyes hollow. "I've tried. They all say the same thing. Her body is fighting something, but they don't know what. She's getting worse, Luca. I'm scared." He looked at Sophia, at the way her chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid breaths. He felt helpless, a sensation he despised. In his world, problems had solutions. Enemies could be bought, threats eliminated. But this was different. This was his daughter, and she was slipping away before he'd even had a chance to know her. A nurse entered, checking Sophia's vitals, her expression tight. "Her fever's up again. We're doing everything we can, but..." She trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought. Luca caught the unspoken message. Time was running out. He turned to Elena, voice low and urgent. "Is there anything you haven't told me? Anything at all?" Elena hesitated, her gaze darting to the window as if searching for an escape. "There's something strange. Last night she started mumbling in her sleep. words I didn't recognize. And then she stopped, swallowing hard. There were marks on her skin, like symbols. They faded before the doctor saw them. Luca's blood ran cold. What kind of symbols? I don't know. I've never seen anything like them. But I'm afraid, Luca. Not just for her health. I think someone's after her. Someone who knows what she is. He stared at Elena, the pieces not fitting, the fear in her eyes more chilling than any threat he'd faced. What do you mean, what she is? Elena shook her head, tears brimming. I can't explain, not yet. But you have to trust me. Sophia's not safe here. Not from this, and not from them. Luca looked at his daughter, at the sweat beading on her brow, the way her lips moved in restless dreams. He felt the old instincts rising, the need to protect, to fight, to do whatever it took. He'd missed her whole life, but he would not miss this chance. He would not let her slip away. He squeezed Sophia's hand, willing her to wake, to fight. I'm here, he whispered, voice breaking. I'm not leaving you, not now, not ever. The machines beeped, the storm raged outside, and Luca felt the world narrowing to this room, this moment. He glanced at Elena, saw the hope and terror warring in her eyes, and made a silent vow. Whatever secrets she was hiding, whatever danger was coming, he would face it. For Sophia. For the family he'd lost, and the one he might still save. As the nurse left, Elena moved to Luca's side, her hand brushing his arm. We have to do something. She doesn't have much time. Luca nodded, his resolve hardening. The shock of discovery faded, replaced by a fierce determination. He was a man who got things done, who bent the world to his will. He would not let fate steal his daughter from him. Not now, not ever. He straightened, eyes blazing with purpose. Tell me everything, Elena. No more secrets. We're running out of time, and I won't lose her. Not tonight. And as the storm battered the city, Luca prepared to fight for the life he'd only just discovered, ready to face whatever darkness waited beyond the hospital walls. Luca's jaw tightened as he watched Sophia's restless form, her skin glistening with fever. The machines continued their steady chorus, but the air in the room felt charged, as if something unseen pressed against the walls. He turned to Elena, his patience fraying. No more riddles. I need the truth. What's happening to her? Elena's eyes darted to the window, where the moonlight filtered through a crack in the curtains, painting silver lines across the floor. She hesitated, her hands twisting in her lap. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me, Luca said, his voice low, the command of a man used to obedience. But beneath the steel there was a tremor, a father's fear. Elena took a shaky breath. Sophia is different. She always has been. When she was little, she'd get sick during the full moon. Fevers, nightmares, strange dreams. I thought it was just a phase, but as she got older, it got worse. And then, last year, I started noticing things. Things I can't explain. Luca frowned, his mind racing through possibilities. What kind of things? She's stronger than she should be. Faster. Sometimes, when she's upset, things happen. Lights flicker, doors slam. And then there are the marks. Elena's voice dropped to a whisper. They only appear at night when the moon is bright. He stared at her, torn between disbelief and the memory of the symbols she'd described. You think this is, what, some kind of curse? Elena shook her head, her eyes haunted. Not a curse. A legacy. My family? We're not like yours, but we have our own secrets. My grandmother used to tell stories about wolves that walked as men, about bloodlines that carried power. I never believed her, not until Sophia. Luca's world was built on logic, on power and control. He'd faced enemies with guns and knives, men who killed without mercy. But this was something else. You're telling me our daughter is, what, a werewolf? Elena flinched at the word, but she didn't deny it. I don't know what else to call it. I tried to protect her, to keep her hidden, but someone found out, someone who wants her for what she is. Luca's mind reeled. He wanted to reject it, to cling to science and reason, but the fear in Elena's eyes, the strange things he'd seen tonight, made denial impossible. Who knows? I don't know, but I've seen men watching us, following us. They're not from your world, Luca. They're something else. And now, with Sophia so sick, I'm afraid they'll come for her. He looked at his daughter, at the way her skin seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. As he watched, faint marks began to appear along her arms, delicate swirling patterns that glowed silver before fading. Luca's breath caught. "Elena, look." She moved to the bedside, her hand trembling as she traced the marks. "It's starting again. It's always worse during the full moon." The nurse returned, her face pinched with worry. "Her fever's spiking. We're running out of options. If you have any information about her medical history, now's the time to share it." Luca exchanged a glance with Elena, the unspoken truth hanging between them. "She's special," he said, choosing his words carefully. "You need to keep her safe. No one comes in this room without my permission." The nurse hesitated, sensing the tension, then nodded and left. Luca turned back to Elena, his mind a storm of questions. "If this is real, if she's really like that, what do we do?" Elena's voice was barely audible. "We wait, we pray, and we keep her safe until the fever breaks. If she survives tonight, she'll be changed. There's no going back." Luca felt the weight of her words settle on his shoulders. He was a man who made his own fate, who bent the world to his will. But now, he was powerless, forced to watch as his daughter fought a battle he couldn't understand. He sat by Sophia's side, holding her hand, feeling the heat of her skin and the tremor of her pulse. The moon climbed higher, its light growing stronger, and the marks on her arms glowed brighter. Luca's heart pounded, torn between fear and awe. He glanced at Elena, saw the tears on her cheeks, the hope and terror in her eyes. "If she makes it through this, what then?" Elena wiped her eyes, her voice steadying. "Then we run, we hide. We keep her away from anyone who would use her, Mafia or monster. She's the only one of her kind, Luca. She's precious, and she's in more danger than you can imagine." Luca nodded, resolve hardening in his chest. He would protect Sophia no matter what. He would fight the darkness, even if it meant facing things he'd never believed in. For the first time, he understood what it meant to be truly afraid, not for himself, but for the family he'd only just found. As the night deepened and the marks on Sophia's skin shimmered in the moonlight, Luca realized that the world was far stranger and far more dangerous than he'd ever known. And as the fever raged and the shadows lengthened, he knew that the fight for his daughter's life was only just beginning. The hospital room felt smaller with every passing minute, the air thick with secrets and dread. Luca sat at Sophia's bedside, his hand wrapped protectively around hers, watching the silver marks pulse and fade beneath her fevered skin. Elena paced the room, her eyes flicking to the door at every sound, her nerves stretched to breaking. A sudden commotion in the hallway made Luca tense. Raised voices, hurried footsteps, too many for a quiet night shift. He stood, his instincts razor-sharp, and moved to the window, peering through the blinds. Down in the parking lot, a pair of black sedans idled, their engines rumbling. Men in dark coats lingered near the entrance, their posture too rigid, their eyes too alert. Not hospital staff, not police. Luca recognized the look. Predators on the hunt. He turned to Elena, voice low and urgent. "Who are they?" She hesitated, then met his gaze, her own eyes haunted. "The Vitale family. They've been watching us for weeks. They know about Sophia. They think she's the key to something old." Luca's blood ran cold. The Vitales were ruthless, their reach long. What do they want with her? Elena's voice trembled. "There's a prophecy, one my family whispered about for generations. It speaks of a child born from two bloodlines, one of man, one of wolf. A child who could unite or destroy both worlds, the Mafia and the supernatural. They believe Sophia is that child." He stared at her, the pieces falling into place. "You're a werewolf." She nodded, shame and pride warring in her expression. "My mother was the last of her pack. I thought I could hide it, live a normal life. But when I met you, I realized Sophia would never be normal. She's both of us, Luca. She's more powerful than either side alone." A chill swept through him, not from fear of Elena, but from the enormity of what she'd hidden. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was afraid. Afraid you'd see me as a monster. Afraid your world would destroy her before she had a chance to live." Elena's voice broke. "But now the Vitales know. They want to use her, or kill her if they can't control her." Luca's mind raced. He'd faced betrayal, violence, war, but nothing like this. He looked at Sophia, her face flushed with fever, her body trembling as the moonlight grew stronger. How close is she? Elena's answer was barely a whisper. Tonight. The first transformation always comes with the first full fever. If she survives, she'll never be the same. A crash echoed from the hallway. The nurse who'd cared for Sophia stumbled in, her face pale. There are men asking for you, Mr. Romano. They say it's urgent. I told them you weren't here, but... Her voice faltered as she glanced at Sophia, at the marks glowing on her skin. Luca moved quickly, pressing a wad of bills into the nurse's hand. You never saw us. Understand? She nodded, fear wide in her eyes, and slipped out. Luca turned to Elena, his decision made. We can't stay. They'll search every room. We need to move her, now. Elena nodded, already gathering Sophia's things. She's weak, but if we wait, we'll never get out. Luca gently lifted Sophia, cradling her against his chest. She moaned, her eyes fluttering open for a moment, confusion and pain clouding her gaze. Papa? The word was soft, uncertain, but it pierced Luca's heart. I'm here, Sophia. I've got you, he whispered, pressing a kiss to her damp forehead. We're leaving. You're safe. Elena led the way, checking the corridor before motioning him forward. They slipped out, moving quickly, Luca's every sense on high alert. The hospital's fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows. Down the hall, 2 men in dark suits turned, their eyes narrowing as they spotted the trio. There, one shouted, reaching inside his coat. Luca didn't hesitate. He ducked into a side corridor, Elena close behind. They burst through a fire exit, the alarm shrieking into the night. Rain lashed their faces as they sprinted across the parking lot, Sophia limp in Luca's arms. Behind them, footsteps pounded, shouts echoing. Elena fumbled with the keys to her battered sedan, hands shaking. Luca slid Sophia into the back seat, then climbed in beside her, shielding her with his body as Elena gunned the engine. Tires screeched as they tore out of the lot, bullets sparking off the rear bumper. Luca glanced back, his jaw set. The Vitales wouldn't give up easily. They'd declared war, and now the hunt was on. Elena drove in silence, her knuckles white on the wheel. Luca stroked Sophia's hair, murmuring reassurances he barely believed. The city blurred past, neon and shadow as they sped toward the unknown. Sophia whimpered, her body racked with tremors. The marks on her skin glowed brighter, pulsing in time with her ragged breaths. Luca met Elena's gaze in the rearview mirror, fear and determination mirrored in her eyes. We need somewhere safe, he said. Somewhere they can't find us. Elena nodded, her voice steady despite the terror. I know a place, an old safe house outside the city. It's protected by more than locks and walls. Luca nodded, holding Sophia close as the rain battered the windows. The hospital was behind them, but the real danger was only beginning. The Vitales were coming, and Sophia's transformation was imminent. As the city lights faded and the road stretched into darkness, Luca vowed he would not lose his daughter, not to prophecy, not to monsters, not to fate. He would fight for her no matter what it cost. And as the car sped through the storm, the first hints of dawn breaking on the horizon, Luca knew there was no turning back. The flight had begun, and the enemy was closer than ever. The city's underbelly was a labyrinth of alleys, forgotten tunnels, and crumbling warehouses, places where the law dared not tread, and secrets were currency. Elena's battered sedan wove through the rain-slicked streets, headlights off, engine barely above a whisper. In the back seat, Sophia shivered, her fevered skin glowing faintly with the strange silver marks, her breath shallow and uneven. Luca kept one arm around her, the other hand resting on the grip of his pistol, every muscle coiled for danger. Elena's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, her eyes darting between the road and the rearview mirror. We can't go to your people, she said, voice tight. If the Vitales are watching the hospital, they'll have eyes on your men too. Luca nodded, his jaw clenched. I know, we'll use the old routes, the ones only I remember. He rattled off a series of turns, guiding Elena through a maze of back streets and service roads. The city outside was a blur of neon and shadow, the rain washing away the blood and grime, but never the danger. For a moment, the only sound was Sophia's ragged breathing and the rhythmic slap of the windshield wipers. Then, as they passed beneath a flickering street lamp, Elena spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I never wanted this for her. I tried to keep her away from all of it, your world, mine. But it was never enough. Luca's gaze softened, the hardened boss giving way to the man who once loved her fiercely. You did what you thought was right. But she's ours, Elena. We protect her together. A bitter laugh escaped her. Together? We haven't been together in 15 years, Luca. You built an empire. I built a life in the shadows. And now look at us, running like scared kids. He reached across the seat, his hand finding hers for a brief, electric moment. We're not kids anymore, and I'm not letting anything happen to either of you. Their fragile unity was tested as they turned onto a deserted industrial road. Ahead, a pair of headlights flared to life, blocking their path. Elena slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt. 3 men stepped into the light, guns drawn, faces hidden by the brims of their hats. Luca recognized the stance, the cold efficiency. Vitale hitmen. Stay down, he hissed, shoving Sophia to the floor and drawing his weapon. Elena's hand shook as she fumbled for the emergency brake, her eyes wide with terror and fury. The hitmen advanced, their footsteps echoing in the empty street. Luca rolled down his window just enough to see, his voice cold and commanding. You don't want to do this, one of the men sneered. Orders are orders, Romano. Hand over the girl. Luca fired first, the shot shattering the night. Chaos erupted. Bullets pinged off metal, glass exploded. Elena screamed. She threw the car into reverse, tires screeching as she backed into a narrow alley. The hitmen fired after them, but the sedan was already gone, swallowed by the city's shadows. They careened through the maze of alleys, hearts pounding, adrenaline burning away the fear. Luca checked Sophia. She was still breathing, her eyes fluttering open for a moment. Papa? She whispered, her voice weak. I'm here, Sophia. We're safe. He lied, brushing damp hair from her forehead. Elena's hands trembled as she drove, her breath coming in short, panicked bursts. They're everywhere, Luca. How do we outrun them? He scanned the darkness, mind racing. We don't outrun them. We outsmart them. There's a safe house near the river. Old friends, people who owe me. We'll hide there until she's strong enough to move. Elena nodded, her jaw set. And after that? Luca met her gaze, the old fire rekindled. After that, we fight for her. For us. The car sped through the city's veins, the chaos outside a stark contrast to the fragile peace inside. For a moment, it was just the 3 of them, father, mother, daughter, bound by blood and fear and something deeper. The world outside wanted to tear them apart, but inside the car, they were whole, if only for a heartbeat. As they neared the river, the rain eased, the city's noise fading to a distant hum. Luca squeezed Elena's hand, a silent promise passing between them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. But as they turned onto the final stretch, headlights flared in the rearview mirror. More Vitale cars, closing in fast. The chase was far from over, and the family's unity would be tested again and again before the night was through. With Sophia's fever burning brighter and the enemy closing in, Luca knew they were running out of time. But as long as they were together, he refused to give in to fear. The chaos of the city was nothing compared to the storm inside his heart. A storm that would not be calmed until his daughter was safe and his family whole once more. The safe house was a forgotten relic tucked behind a crumbling warehouse, its brick walls masked by ivy and shadow. Elena guided the car through a rusted gate, the engine finally falling silent as they coasted to a stop. For a moment, the world was still. No sirens, no headlights, just the steady drum of rain on the roof and the frantic beat of 3 hearts. Luca stepped out first, scanning the alley for threats. Satisfied, he opened the back door and gently lifted Sophia into his arms. She was burning up, her skin slick with sweat, but her eyes fluttered open, searching the darkness. Where are we? She whispered, her voice hoarse. Somewhere safe, Luca murmured, carrying her inside. The safe house was sparse but clean, a single lamp casting golden light over battered furniture and faded rugs. Elena locked the door behind them, bolting it twice for good measure. Sophia shivered as Luca laid her on the old sofa. Elena knelt beside her, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "You're safe, baby. We're here." Sophia's gaze darted between them, confusion and fear warring in her fever-bright eyes. "Why are they after me? What's happening to me?" Luca knelt, taking her hand in his. "You're special, Sophia. There are people who want to hurt you because of it. But we won't let them. I promise." Elena's eyes met Luca's, old wounds and old longing flickering between them. "She deserves the truth," Elena said softly. Luca nodded, his voice gentle. "You're stronger than you know, Sophia. You have a gift, one that comes from both your mother and me. It's nothing to be ashamed of." Sophia's breath hitched. "I feel strange, like something's inside me, trying to get out. I'm scared." Elena wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her close. "I know, sweetheart. I was scared too the first time. But you're not alone. We're here with you." Luca watched them, a lump rising in his throat. He'd missed so much. First steps, first words, all the little moments that made a life. But now, as he stroked Sophia's hair and whispered soothing words, he felt a bond forming, fragile but real. She was his daughter, and he would do anything to protect her. The safe house offered a brief respite, a bubble of warmth in a world gone cold. Luca and Elena moved quietly around Sophia, tending to her, sharing whispered memories and half-smiles. The years apart melted away, replaced by a sense of family neither had dared to hope for. But the peace was short-lived. As the moon climbed higher, Sophia's breathing grew ragged, her body trembling with a force she couldn't control. She clutched at Luca's hand, her eyes wide with terror. "It hurts, Papa. Make it stop." Luca's heart twisted. "I wish I could, Tesoro. But you're stronger than this. You can fight it." Elena knelt beside them, her own hands shaking. "It's starting. The first change is always the hardest. Just breathe, Sophia. We're right here." Sophia's skin shimmered, the silver marks glowing brighter, swirling across her arms and neck. She gasped, her back arching as pain racked her body. "What's happening to me?" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Luca gathered her in his arms, holding her tight. "You're becoming who you're meant to be. It's scary, I know, but you're not alone. We'll get through this together." Elena stroked Sophia's hair, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "You're my brave girl. You have my blood and your father's strength. You can do this," Sophia sobbed, clinging to them both. The room seemed to pulse with energy, the air thick with the scent of rain, and something wild, something ancient. Luca felt it too, a primal force stirring in his daughter, a power that was both beautiful and terrifying. The transformation had begun, and there was no turning back. The safe house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage, the walls closing in as Sophia's cries echoed through the night. Luca met Elena's gaze, fear and determination mirrored in her eyes. "We have to help her," he said, voice raw. Elena nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "We will. No matter what." As Sophia's body convulsed, her cries growing more desperate, Luca realized that safety was an illusion. The real battle was just beginning, and it was one they would have to fight together, as a family. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, a different kind of storm was breaking. And as Sophia's transformation took hold, the fragile peace they'd found was shattered, replaced by a new, terrifying reality. The safe house walls seemed to close in as Sophia's cries grew sharper, echoing off the cracked plaster and faded rugs. The air was thick with fear and something wilder, an energy that prickled along Luca's skin, making every hair stand on end. He knelt beside Sophia, his hands trembling as he tried to soothe her, but she was burning up, her body racked with tremors that no fever could explain. Elena hovered nearby, her face pale and drawn, eyes never leaving her daughter. "It's starting," she whispered, voice tight with dread and awe. "The first change is always the hardest. She needs us, Luca. She needs to know she's not alone." Sophia's back arched, a strangled scream tearing from her throat. Her fingers curled into claws, nails lengthening before their eyes. The silver marks on her skin pulsed, swirling and shifting, as if alive. Her eyes snapped open, irises flickering between hazel and a feral golden hue. "Make it stop!" she sobbed, voice raw and animal. Luca's heart shattered. He reached for her, ignoring the instinct to recoil from the unnatural. "I'm here, Sophia. I'm not leaving you. You're stronger than this. You're my daughter." But Sophia thrashed, her strength suddenly inhuman. She shoved him back, sending him sprawling across the floor. Luca scrambled to his feet, refusing to give in to fear. He'd faced men with guns, knives, and hatred in their eyes, but nothing compared to the terror of losing his child to something he couldn't fight. Elena moved to Sophia's side, murmuring words in a language Luca didn't recognize, ancient, soothing, wild. For a moment, Sophia stilled, her breathing ragged but slower. Then another wave of pain hit, and she convulsed, her body twisting, bones shifting beneath her skin. Luca watched in horror and awe as fur sprouted along Sophia's arms, her face contorting, teeth lengthening into fangs. She was caught between worlds, neither girl nor beast, her cries a blend of human agony and animal rage. "Help me," Sophia screamed, her voice breaking. Luca crawled to her, ignoring the claws that raked his arm as he tried to hold her down. Blood welled from the scratches, but he didn't flinch. "I'm here, Sophia. I'm not afraid. I love you. I'm not leaving." Sophia's golden eyes locked onto his, wild and desperate. For a heartbeat, something human flickered there, a plea for help, for understanding. Luca cupped her face, his own blood smearing her cheek. "You're not a monster. You're my daughter. You're stronger than this." Elena knelt beside them, tears streaming down her face. "She can't control it, Luca. Not yet. The first time is always chaos. She needs an anchor, something to hold on to." Luca nodded, his voice fierce. "Sophia, listen to me. You're not alone. You have me. You have your mother. We love you. Hold on to that. Hold on to us." Sophia's body convulsed again, but this time, her claws dug into Luca's arm, anchoring herself to him. He gritted his teeth against the pain, refusing to let go. "That's it, Tesoro. Stay with me. You're stronger than this." The transformation reached its peak, a final, shuddering wave of agony. Sophia's body twisted, then stilled. For a moment, there was only silence, broken by the sound of Luca's ragged breathing and the storm outside. Then, slowly, Sophia's form began to shift back. The fur receded, her claws shrank, and her eyes faded from gold to hazel. She collapsed against Luca, sobbing, her body racked with exhaustion. Luca held her, tears streaming down his face. "You did it, Sophia. You're safe. I'm here." Elena wrapped her arms around them both, her own sobs mingling with Sophia's. For a moment, the three of them clung together, a family forged in pain and love. But the peace was short-lived. Sophia's breathing grew shallow, her skin cold and clammy. Elena checked her pulse, panic rising in her eyes. "She's not stabilizing. The change took too much out of her." "She's fading, Luca." Luca's heart lurched. "What do we do? Tell me." Elena hesitated, then met his gaze, her eyes haunted. "There's only one way. The Vitales have something, an artifact, a talisman. It can help her control the change, help her survive. But they'll want something in return." Luca's jaw clenched. "What do they want?" "Leverage, power, you. They want you to surrender, give up your territory, your influence. They want to break you, Luca, and they know you'll do anything for her." He stared at Sophia, her face pale and still, her breaths growing fainter. The thought of surrendering everything he'd built, everything he was, twisted in his gut. But the alternative was unthinkable. "I'll do it," he said, voice steady. "I'll give them whatever they want. Just save her." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure? Once you make this deal, there's no going back. They'll own you." Luca nodded, resolve hardening in his chest. "She's my daughter. I'd give my life for hers. I'd give everything." Elena squeezed his hand, her own resolve matching his. "I'll make the call. But you need to be ready. The Vitales don't play fair." Luca stroked Sophia's hair, whispering words of comfort as Elena stepped into the next room, phone pressed to her ear. He listened to her voice, pleading, bargaining, threatening, while he held his daughter, willing her to stay with him. Minutes stretched into eternity. Finally, Elena returned, her face grim. They agreed. They'll meet us at the old church on the edge of the city. Bring Sophia. Bring yourself. Alone. Luca nodded, his decision made. He gathered Sophia in his arms, her body limp but alive. We're going to save you, Tesoro. I promise. Elena packed what little they had, her movements quick and efficient. We have to go now. The longer we wait, the weaker she gets. Luca carried Sophia to the car, his own wounds forgotten. As they drove through the rain-soaked streets, he looked at Elena, saw the fear and love in her eyes, and knew he wasn't alone. They were a family, broken, battered, but unbowed. The city loomed ahead, the old church rising from the mist like a specter. Luca's heart pounded, not with fear but with determination. He would face the Vitalis. He would give up everything if it meant saving his daughter. As they pulled up to the church, headlights flared in the darkness. The Vitalis were waiting, their silhouettes sharp against the stained glass. Luca kissed Sophia's forehead, whispered a final promise, and stepped out into the night. He was ready to sacrifice everything, for love, for family, for the hope of a future. And as he walked toward the enemy, the storm raging around him, Luca knew that some battles were worth any price. Inside the car, Elena held Sophia close, her eyes fixed on Luca's retreating figure. The line between human and monster, love and danger had never been thinner. And as the church doors creaked open, the next chapter of their fight began. The old church loomed against the storm, its stained glass windows fractured by time, casting broken colors across the wet pavement. Luca stepped out of the car, the weight of sacrifice heavy on his shoulders. He glanced back once, Elena's face pale in the glow of the dashboard, Sophia's head cradled in her mother's lap, her breath shallow but steady. He closed the door softly, sealing his promise behind him. Rain soaked through his suit as he strode toward the church steps, every sense alert. The Vitalis waited in the shadows, their men fanned out in a semicircle, guns visible beneath their coats. At the center stood Marco Vitale, the family's new boss, young, sharp-eyed, and hungry for power. He smiled as Luca approached, the expression cold and triumphant. "Romano," Marco called, his voice echoing in the empty night. "I wondered if you'd have the guts to come alone." Luca didn't flinch. "You have what I need. I have what you want. Let's not waste time." Marco's gaze flicked to the car, then back to Luca. "Your daughter, the prophecy child. You're willing to give up your empire for her?" Luca's jaw tightened. "I'll give you what you want. My territory, my loyalty. Just give me the talisman. Let her go." A ripple of surprise passed through the Vitale men. Marco stepped closer, his eyes gleaming. "You'd surrender everything? For a girl you've only just met?" "She's my blood," Luca said, voice like steel. "And I don't break my promises." Marco laughed, the sound sharp as broken glass. "You always were a fool for family. But this isn't just about territory, Romano. Your daughter is more than you know. The prophecy says she'll unite the bloodlines or destroy them. She's the key to a new order. With her, I could rule both worlds." Luca's fists clenched. "You'll never have her. I'll die before I let you use her." Marco's smile faded. He signaled to one of his men, who stepped forward, holding a small ancient box. "The talisman. It will help her survive the change. But it comes at a price. You walk away from everything. Tonight. Your men, your money, your name. You disappear, Romano. Or she dies." Luca's heart pounded. He looked at the box, then at Marco. "Swear she'll be safe. Swear on your family's name." Marco's eyes narrowed. "You have my word. But know this. If you cross me, if you try to take her back, I'll hunt you both to the ends of the earth." A tense silence fell. Luca nodded, the decision final. "Give me the talisman. I'll give you what you want." Marco handed over the box, his smile returning. "You're making the right choice. For her. For all of us." Luca took the box, feeling the weight of centuries in his palm. He turned to go, but Marco's voice stopped him cold. "There's something you should know, Romano. The prophecy. It doesn't end with her. There's a second child hidden even from you. When the time comes, she'll have to choose. Unite the packs and the families or destroy them both. And you," Marco's smile was cruel, "you won't be there to guide her." Luca froze, the words sinking in like poison. "You're lying," Marco shrugged. "Believe what you want. But the prophecy is already in motion. You can't stop it. None of us can." Before Luca could respond, a howl split the night, low, wild, and close. The Vitale men spun, guns raised, as shadows moved at the edge of the churchyard. From the darkness, figures emerged. Tall, fierce, eyes gleaming in the rain. Elena's pack. They moved with silent purpose, surrounding the Vitale men, cutting off every escape. Elena appeared at Luca's side, her face transformed by resolve and something ancient. "You're not alone, Luca. Not tonight." Marco's confidence faltered as the pack closed in. "You brought wolves to a gunfight?" He sneered, but his voice wavered. Elena's eyes flashed gold. "You have no idea what you're up against." The tension snapped. One of the Vitale men fired, the shot echoing through the churchyard. Chaos erupted. Wolves lunged, men shouted, gunfire crackled. Luca shielded the talisman, ducking as a bullet whistled past his ear. Elena shifted, her form blurring, fur rippling along her arms as she leapt at a Vitale enforcer. Luca fought his way back to the car, the box clutched tight. He could hear Sophia's cries, weak but growing stronger. He reached the door, flung it open, and pressed the talisman into Elena's hands. "Now use it!" Elena knelt beside Sophia, chanting in the old tongue. The talisman glowed, casting a warm golden light over Sophia's trembling form. Her breathing steadied, the fever breaking as the marks on her skin faded to silver scars. Outside, the battle raged. Wolves and men clashed beneath the stained glass, the prophecy's shadow looming over them all. Marco, bloodied but unbowed, locked eyes with Luca across the chaos. "This isn't over, Romano. The prophecy will find her no matter where you run." Luca slammed the car door, Elena sliding into the driver's seat. Sophia, pale but alive, clung to her mother, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. Luca looked back at the church, at the war he'd started, and the future he'd bargained away. As Elena sped them into the night, the city receding behind them, Luca's mind raced with Marco's words. Another child, another choice. The prophecy was far from finished, and their family's fate hung in the balance. But for now, Sophia was safe. For now, they were together. And as the rain eased and the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Luca vowed to protect his daughter, no matter what destiny demanded. The world was changing, the old rules shattered. The next battle was coming, and this time the stakes would be higher than ever. The night was alive with chaos. The old churchyard, once a place of whispered prayers and forgotten sins, was now a battlefield bathed in silver moonlight. Rain had washed the world clean, but the air was thick with the scent of blood, gunpowder, and something wilder, something ancient. The full moon hung low, casting long shadows that danced across the broken stones and shattered stained glass. Luca pressed his back against the car, his breath coming in ragged bursts. He could hear the snarls and shouts, the crack of gunfire, the guttural roars of wolves in battle. Elena was at his side, her eyes golden, her body half-shifted, human and wolf, mother and protector. Sophia, pale but alive, crouched between them, her hands trembling as she clutched the talisman to her chest. "Stay close," Luca whispered, his voice fierce. "We fight together. No matter what," Sophia nodded, her fear warring with something new, resolve. The talisman's glow had faded, but its warmth lingered, steadying her. She could feel the power inside her, wild and untamed, but no longer out of control. She was herself, And something more. A Vitali enforcer lunged from the shadows, gun raised. Luca moved without thinking, putting himself between the man and his family. The shot rang out, grazing his shoulder, but he didn't falter. He fired back, dropping the enforcer with a single, precise shot. Elena let out a howl, the sound echoing through the night. Her pack surged forward, wolves tearing into the Vitali men with savage grace. The Mafia's bullets found their marks, but the wolves were relentless, their fury fueled by loyalty and blood. Sofia watched, heart pounding, as the battle raged around her. She saw Marco Vitali at the church steps, barking orders, his face twisted with rage. He raised his gun, aiming at Elena. Time seemed to slow. "No!" Sofia screamed, the word ripping from her throat. Power surged through her, raw and electric. The air shimmered, the ground trembling beneath her feet. The silver marks on her skin blazed to life, casting a halo of light around her. Marco fired, but the bullet never reached its mark. Sofia raised her hand, and the air itself seemed to bend, the bullet stopping mid-flight before dropping harmlessly to the ground. The Vitali men froze, fear flickering in their eyes. Sofia stepped forward, her voice ringing with authority she'd never known. "Leave us, now." For a moment the world held its breath. Then Marco snarled, raising his gun again. "You're just a girl. You can't stop me." Sofia's eyes flashed gold. "I'm not just a girl. I'm the prophecy." With a cry she unleashed her power. The ground split, roots and vines bursting from the earth, wrapping around the Vitali men, pinning them in place. Wolves circled, teeth bared, but it was Sofia who held the battlefield in her hands. Luca stared in awe, blood streaming down his arm, pride and fear warring in his chest. Elena moved to his side, her hand finding his, their fingers entwined. "She's more than we ever imagined," Elena whispered, tears in her eyes. Sofia turned to her parents, her power flickering, her body trembling with exhaustion. "I can't hold it," she gasped. "It's too much." Luca stepped forward, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. He cupped Sofia's face, his touch gentle. "You're not alone, Tesoro. We're here. Let us help you." Elena joined them, wrapping her arms around Sofia. The three of them stood together, a circle of love and strength. The power inside Sofia calmed, the silver light fading to a soft glow. But the battle was not yet won. Marco broke free from the vines, rage twisting his features. He lunged at Luca, knife flashing in the moonlight. Luca met him head-on, the two men grappling, years of hatred and rivalry boiling over. Elena shifted fully, fur rippling along her body, and leapt at another Vitali enforcer, her jaws closing around his arm. The pack fought with renewed fury, their loyalty to Elena and Sofia unbreakable. Sofia watched, fear and fury mingling in her chest. She saw Marco raise the knife, saw her father falter, blood staining his shirt. With a cry, she surged forward, her power flaring. She knocked Marco back, the knife clattering to the ground. Marco scrambled to his feet, eyes wild. "You can't stop the prophecy. You're a monster." Sofia shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not a monster. I'm my mother's daughter, my father's daughter. I choose who I become." With a final surge of power, she sent Marco flying, the force slamming him against the church wall. He crumpled, unconscious, the fight gone from him. The remaining Vitali men fled, fear driving them into the night. The wolves howled in victory, the sound echoing through the empty streets. Luca collapsed to his knees, exhaustion and relief washing over him. Elena shifted back, her arms wrapping around him, her lips pressing to his brow. Sofia knelt beside them, her hands shaking, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. For a moment, the violence faded, replaced by the tenderness of family. Luca pulled Sofia into his arms, holding her tight. "You did it, Tesoro. You saved us." Elena stroked Sofia's hair, her voice thick with emotion. "You're stronger than any prophecy, stronger than any curse," Sofia sobbed, clinging to her parents. "I was so scared. I thought I'd lose myself." Luca kissed her forehead, his voice fierce. "You'll never lose yourself. Not while we're here. Not while we're family." The moon shone down, bathing them in silver light. The churchyard was quiet now. The battle won, but the cost was etched in blood and scars. Luca's shoulder throbbed. Elena's body bore fresh wounds, and Sophia's soul was forever changed. But they were together. They were alive, and for the first time, they were truly a family. As dawn crept over the horizon, painting the world in gold and rose, Sophia looked at her parents, hope flickering in her eyes. "What happens now?" Luca smiled, pain and pride mingling in his gaze. "Now we build a new future. Together." Elena nodded, her hand finding Luca's, their fingers entwined. "Whatever comes, we face it as one." The violence of the night faded, replaced by the quiet strength of love. The prophecy's shadow still lingered, but in the light of family, it seemed less daunting. And as the sun rose, casting away the last of the darkness, Sophia knew she was ready to face whatever destiny awaited, so long as she had her family by her side. The first rays of dawn crept over the battered churchyard, painting the world in soft gold and pink. The storm had passed, leaving behind a hush broken only by the distant calls of birds and the quiet, exhausted breaths of those who remained. The ground was scarred, stained with blood and torn earth, but the violence had faded, replaced by a fragile peace. Luca sat on the church steps, his arm bandaged, his shirt torn and stained. Elena leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder, her own wounds cleaned and wrapped. Between them, Sophia sat cross-legged, her hands tracing the faded silver marks on her skin. She was quiet, her eyes distant, but there was a new strength in the set of her jaw, a quiet acceptance of the power she now carried. For a long time, none of them spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable, but full of things that needed saying. Finally, Elena broke it, her voice soft. "We survived." Luca nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "We did. But survival isn't enough. Not anymore." Sophia looked up, her eyes searching her parents' faces. "What happens now? The prophecy, the Vitales. Will they come back?" Elena reached for her daughter's hand, squeezing it gently. "There will always be those who fear what they don't understand. But you're not alone, Sophia. You have us. You have the pack, and you have a choice about who you want to be." Luca turned to Elena, his expression raw. "We can't keep running forever. We need to decide, do we keep hiding, or do we fight for a place in this world? For her, for us?" Elena's eyes shimmered with old pain and new hope. "I spent so many years running from what I am. From you. I thought it was the only way to keep her safe. But I was wrong. We're stronger together. If you want to build a life, a real life, I want that too." Luca reached for her, his hand trembling as he brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I never stopped loving you, Elena. Not for a single day. I want a future. With you. With her." Sophia watched them, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. "I want that too. I want to learn what I am. I want to be both, Romano and Wolf. I want to be free." A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the scent of rain and wildflowers. The pack lingered at the edge of the churchyard, their eyes watchful but kind. One by one, they approached, bowing their heads to Sophia, acknowledging her as one of their own. She stood, uncertain, but Elena nodded encouragement. Sophia stepped forward, and the pack welcomed her, their unity a promise of protection and belonging. Luca watched, pride swelling in his chest. He had lost so much, years, love, innocence, but in this moment, he felt whole. He turned to Elena, his voice thick with emotion. "We'll find a place, somewhere safe. We'll build something new." Elena smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. Together. As the sun climbed higher, the family gathered what little they had and prepared to leave the ruins of the old church behind. The world outside was still dangerous, still uncertain, but they faced it as one, stronger for all they had endured. But as they walked away, a shadow lingered among the gravestones. A tall figure, cloaked and hooded, watched them with eyes that glinted gold in the morning light. He remained silent, unseen, but his presence was a promise and a warning. The prophecy was not finished. The world was changing, and new dangers waited just beyond the horizon. Sophia paused, sensing something, and glanced back. The figure melted into the mist, leaving only a chill in the air. She shivered, but Luca placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Whatever comes, we face it together. They walked on, the past behind them, the future uncertain but theirs to claim. For the first time, hope felt real. A fragile, precious thing, but alive. As they disappeared into the morning, the churchyard stood silent, bearing witness to the end of one story and the beginning of another. The world would not give them peace easily, but they were ready to fight for it. For family, for love, for the chance to choose their own destiny. And somewhere in the shadows, the next chapter waited, watching, ready to unfold. The world felt new in the gentle hush of early morning. Luca, Elena, and Sophia found themselves in a small, sunlit kitchen, the kind that smelled of coffee and hope. The safe house was nothing like the penthouse Luca once called home, but it was theirs for now, a place where the past could not reach them, if only for a little while. Sophia sat at the table, a mug of tea cradled in her hands. The silver marks on her skin had faded to faint lines, almost invisible in the golden light. She watched her parents move around the kitchen, their movements easy, familiar, as if the years apart had never happened. Luca poured coffee, his bandaged arm moving stiffly, while Elena sliced bread, humming a tune from Sophia's childhood. For a moment, everything was simple. The chaos and violence of the night before seemed distant, a bad dream chased away by the promise of a new day. Luca caught Elena's eye and smiled, a real, unguarded smile that made her heart ache with longing and relief. Sophia grinned, her laughter bright and unburdened, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged. Both wolf and human, both daughter and something more. They ate together, sharing stories and quiet jokes, savoring the warmth of family. Luca reached across the table, squeezing Elena's hand, and she squeezed back, her eyes shining with tears she didn't bother to hide. Sophia leaned into her father's side, letting herself be held, letting herself believe that peace was possible. But peace, they all knew, was fragile. A knock at the door shattered the calm. All three froze, instincts sharpened by too many years of danger. Luca rose first, motioning for Elena and Sophia to stay back. He opened the door a crack, his body tense, ready for anything. No one stood on the stoop. Only a single white envelope, sealed with red wax, lay on the worn wooden boards. Luca bent to pick it up, his heart pounding. He turned it over in his hands, searching for a clue. But there was no name, no return address. Only the seal, pressed with a symbol he didn't recognize. He brought the envelope inside, setting it on the table. Elena stared at it, her face pale. What is it? Luca broke the seal and unfolded the letter. The message was short, written in a bold, unfamiliar hand. The prophecy is only beginning. Watch the moon. A chill swept through the room, banishing the warmth of moments before. Sophia's hands trembled as she read the words. What does it mean? Elena's voice was barely a whisper. It means we're not done. There's more to come. Luca's jaw tightened, resolve hardening in his eyes. Let them come. We're ready this time. Whatever the prophecy demands, we face it together. Sophia looked from her father to her mother, fear and excitement warring in her chest. She was no longer the frightened girl from the hospital. She was something new, something powerful. But the unknown still loomed, vast and dark. Elena wrapped her arms around Sophia, pulling her close. We'll protect you, no matter what. Luca joined them, his arms encircling both, anchoring them in the present. For a heartbeat, the world outside faded, and all that mattered was the warmth of family, the strength of love. But the letter lay on the table, a silent promise that peace would not last. Somewhere out there, others watched and waited. Rivals, monsters, perhaps even allies. The prophecy's shadow stretched long, and the next chapter was already stirring. Sophia pressed her face into her mother's shoulder, her voice muffled. "Do you think we'll ever be normal?" Elena kissed her hair, her answer gentle but true. "We'll never be normal, Sophia, but we'll be together. That's enough." Luca smiled, fierce and proud. "We make our own fate. Whatever comes, we face it as a family." The sun climbed higher, filling the kitchen with light. Outside, the world moved on, unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon. But inside, hope flickered, fragile, stubborn, alive. As the screen fades, the letter's words linger. The prophecy is only beginning. Watch the moon. What do you think will happen next? Will Luca, Elena, and Sophia find peace? Or will the prophecy tear them apart? Who sent the letter, and what new dangers wait in the shadows? Let us know in the comments if you want to see part. The warmth of family glows in the kitchen, but the chill of destiny waits just beyond the door. The story is far from over. The moon will rise again, and with it, a new chapter, one only you can help shape.